Welcome to another episode of Medicine Mondays. Yours truly, Dr. Pierre, and today we got, I hope it's not a controversial conversation, but it is a topic, especially when we talk about medicine and healthcare, that needs to be addressed. When should we be firing the doctor? Now, again, I'm not going to call out none of my colleagues by name, nobody specifically, but I'm going to talk about, especially from a patient perspective, when is your doctor doing by you? And more importantly, when is your doctor doing wrong by you that you got to show them the door? Because quite often, and I hate to say this, quite often, especially when we talk about this doctor-patient relationship, a lot of my patients out in the world out here are sitting in relationships where it's way too one-sided, where it is not beneficial for them to still be in that relationship with said doctor. And what do I mean by that? Quite often I am seeing patients, especially when I see patients in a hospital setting, in rehab, but quite often I'm seeing patients in settings that things have happened, whether they got a stroke, they got a heart attack, something happened. And when I'm trying to do just my typical history taking and trying to figure out okay, what happened before you got to me? It's very obvious that there were some steps that were, I don't want to say missed, because I don't think it's nothing purposeful, but just weren't taken advantage of. And because of that lack of an appropriate relationship with the doctor and patient, it just fell through the cracks. Maybe the doctor didn't realize that patient hadn't taken the medication or didn't ask. Maybe the doctor didn't realize that the medication got way more expensive, so now the patient can't afford to take said medication. Maybe the doctor didn't realize that they had one of their support staff see the patient and they let something slip. Something happens where the patient ultimately suffers. And that's why I say all the time, in this doctor-patient relationship, it's a life or death situation if you got a good one and if you got a bad one. If I'm going to take the necessary steps to take care of my health, I want to make sure the person who is tasked in front of me to take care of me is doing just that. So we're going to talk about what are some of the telltale signs that you should be looking for when it's time to fire your doctor, and more importantly, to know when to get a good one. There's no point to fire a doctor and then go run into another bad doctor. Quite often you hear this phrase oh my God, I love Dr. So-and-so. You may go see Dr. So-and-so and it really don't hit. That love don't hit like it hit for your friend. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. But it's one of those things where as a patient, the motto here, if you watch this channel, think like a doctor. You have to think, all right, what do I need to do to make sure that my health is the most optimal and the most optimized for now, present, and more importantly, for the future. I want to be around aching and I'm pain and I'm in bed, I'm taking 100 different medications. I want to actually enjoy the life I'm living while still kind of making sure I focus on my health. So let's talk about this aspect of what you should be looking for when it's just time to say, you know what? I gotta go. And so these are some red flags. These are some things you should be thinking about when it's, hey, you know what? I might need to make the change. First and foremost, communication. If you're having poor communication with the person who is in charge, when I'm taking care of a patient, I'm the captain of the ship of their health. If you have poor communication with the captain of your ship, who's supposed to be leading you down the path to good health and a good wellness and being, problems are going to arise. If you're having trouble communicating, you're having trouble getting in touch with the doctor, even when you do get in touch with the doctor, it seems like it's a one-sided conversation. These are things that don't typically get better. It's not as if I start off on the wrong foot and my communication is poor, my doctor's not listening to me, I'm not listening to my doctor for whatever reason. Whatever the reason is where that communication is just lacking, it typically does not get better over time. Typically, the way it starts out is likely the way it's going to continue. It typically doesn't get any better. That's a big sign for me when I'm talking to my friends and family members hey, how accessible is your doctor? When you do get to reach the doctor, what are they saying? Does it make sense to you? Do they make sure they take the time so that you understand what they're saying? There's so many communication aspects that need to really be honed in. And one, let me tell you now, I always blame the doctor. I'll just be honest. I'll take it on the chin because as a healthcare provider, as a physician, you are supposed to learn communication skills that can modify to every single patient you come into. The good doctors can recognize, hey, this patient here, they're going to be a little bit more hand-holding. This patient here, I could be a little bit more direct with them. This patient here, I'm going to have to kind of meet 50-50 because the doctor is supposed to be able to adjust. That's not a thing that patients typically adjust. So communication, I think, is like number one, a red flag if you have poor communication, that it may be time to start looking for another doctor. Regardless of where this doctor went to school, how many articles they've written or research that they've done, there has to be a level of respect for the patient in front of them. Because if you don't respect the patient in front of you, there's no way you can expect the patient in front of you to listen to your directions, be compliant with their medications, be compliant with their appointments, be respectful to your other support staff in the office. Like, there's no way you can expect that to occur if you don't give it first. So I think respect is so key. And it comes in so many different ways, whether it's recognizing cultural competency differences, whether it's recognizing there are certain ways I need to talk to my patient here. There are certain cultural practices I need to kind of assist and abide by. Like, there are certain things that I need to do to allow my patient to know that, yes, I'm the physician. Yes, I'm the captain of the ship, but I'm going to respect you and your decision every which way. It can't be this adversarial type of approach when it comes to the doctor-patient relationship. That does not work. It never has. It never will. It's always this, we have to find a common ground of respect, because if we have that common ground of respect, guess what? Now when I say, hey, you know what? Your blood pressure's getting high. What's going on with the medications? Hey, you know what? Your blood sugar's kind of high. How's that diet like? If there's that respect is there, the patient will give you the respect back and say, doc, this is what's happening. Let me tell you the truth. Because quite often, if you don't respect the person in front of you, you're not going to tell them the truth. And there is no bigger deal breaker when it comes to the doctor-patient relationship in lying. Like, if you are lying to your patient, or if you're lying to your doctor, like, the only person that suffers, again, I like to say this, the only person that suffers is the patient. You got to have that respect there, because you're not going to lie to people you respect. You're not going to lie, all right, doc, I did take my medication, if you truly respect the provider. The same thing. Like, if I respect your wishes, if I respect your differences, if I respect all of the things that make you you, I'm going to know, like, I need to go with this approach here, or I need to prescribe this medication here, or I need to have this type of practice here. Like, I'm going to understand what I need to do to maximize your ability to kind of follow my lead. At the end of the day, I just want you to follow my lead. Whether I'm taking care of you in the office, in the hospital, in the rehab, I just need you to follow my lead, because I need you to trust and respect the fact that what I say is for the best interest of you. If I don't believe that, if I'm the patient and I don't believe that my doctor respects me enough to have my best interest in hand, I'm not following that doctor down no path, no way. And then that relationship kind of crumbles. It's not going to happen. How accessible is your doctor? Like, how difficult, again, and obviously this is probably more of a focus on my outpatient ambulatory physicians, but how accessible is this doctor? Like, when you call the office, do you get a call back? Do you get your concerns responded to in an appropriate manner? Like, if you feel like calling your doctor is a lost cause, that's a problem. That goes back to respect. That goes back to communication. I need to be able to get in contact with you. There shouldn't be this multiple obstacles and barriers of communication just to get to my doctor. And I see quite often that the doctors will insulate themselves with so many different layers. Now, of course, I understand why. Sometimes, you're trying to be more efficient and everything, but there comes a point where you as the physician have to know that your patients are going to be looking for your word, your wisdom, and your expertise. But if they can't get to it, if they can't find it, guess what they do? They hop on their computer, they hop on their phone, and all of a sudden they're typing away. They're Google searching it. They're finding a random blog. They're finding people who are going to be likely less credible, giving them answers on things that you should have been able to give them. Now, I'll be honest, one of the reasons why, I started the whole social media thing is that I saw that so many physicians were so inaccessible to their patients that when they were coming online, all of a sudden they were running into bad advice after bad advice after bad advice. So I said, you know what? Let me at least be a word of wisdom within the sea of bad advice, within the sea of misinformation and disinformation, so that at least when they can't reach out to their doctor or the doctor is inaccessible, at least they can see someone who, like, all right, this guy's credible enough. His information is going to hold me over until I can finally get in touch with my doctor. So you have to be accessible. And if your doctor is inaccessible to you, you feel like there's no way I can get in contact with them, that's a question, that's a big check mark in there. I might have to get up out of here because I don't like what's happening here from my standpoint. And I think one of the big ones is if you just feel like you're not getting adequate care, if you feel like it's just a rubber stamp factory machine type of approach when you go to the doctor's office or when you see him in a hospital, and it just feels like I'm just like a number to this person here. The person doesn't really know me, and not only does this person know me because they're not communicating well, they don't really respect me that much. It's difficult to get in touch with them anyways. But my blood pressure is not getting no better. My diabetes isn't getting any better. My cholesterol isn't getting any better. My thyroid issues aren't getting any better. The things that I came to this person to try to get help on isn't improving. That's another one where you gotta like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta find someone who's gonna take more responsibility and more care for me, because clearly this is a situation where if I continue to go down this road, like I'm not gonna like the end of the road. It's not gonna be a good end of the road for me if I continue to go down this road. So just having inadequate care and realizing that all of these other things, and most of the time this isn't a one-shot deal. Most of the time you're likely not gonna have a doctor who has poor communication but is great at being accessible and great at respecting you. You're likely not gonna have a doctor who respects the hell out of you but has poor communication. Like it typically kind of goes together. So that's why it's so important to kind of understand and tease them out and recognize how many instances your doctor is failing. When you see that the respect isn't there, when you see the communication is poor, when you see that the trust isn't there, and you see that you're not getting any better or your health problems aren't improving, that's the telltale sign that I got to get up out of there and get up out of there quickly. Let's get to the point where you're saying, you know what, I think I need to change doctor. You've gone through, your checkpoints. It doesn't seem like this situation is going to get any better. Now you have to decide, what do I need to do? So first and foremost, I always tell my patient, hey, you know what? Maybe there's a chance that doctor doesn't recognize that what they're doing isn't working for you. You got to be honest with them. Normally, I know especially if you got a bad doctor, they're trying to get you in and out. You might have to say, hey, doc, I need you to pause for a little bit. I'm having some problems with my care. I'm having some problems with what we got going on, and I want to address it because maybe you don't recognize it. Maybe the doctor is so busy, they don't recognize that their communication is poor, that the respect isn't there. And maybe they need someone to kind of open their eyes and say, hey, doc, open your eyes up. This is what's going on. So have that conversation with your doctor. Say, hey, these are my issues. These are my concerns. Where do we go from here? Give that doctor enough time to try to fix it. Not too much time. They're not giving them too much time, but give that doctor enough time to try to fix it before we start having that conversation of, all right, it's time to go. Because when it's time to go, when you start looking around, you got to understand what caused you to leave the doctor in the first place. Because the worst thing to do is to leave one doctor because of one set of problems and then go to another doctor who has the same set of problems. So when you go and say, and I know it's easier this day and age where especially most people who are insured, unless you're an HMO, which is a different conversation, you may have a list of primary care doctors or just hospital doctors or rehab. Like you may have a choice of doctors you can go to try to get your point across. After talking to them and figuring out like, hey, these are my issues and seeing maybe it's not working, making sure that when you're looking for that second opinion, I love word of mouth. I love being able to talk to your friends, talk to your family members. Hey, what do you like about your doctor? What does your doctor do for you? To see if that aligns with your goals. Talk to your friends, talk to your family member, get that second opinion. And then when you go and let's say you go and say, I'm a switch doctor. I'm switching. I'm like, that doctor's gone. He's fired. He's fired. She's fired. Whatever that is. Like, let's say you make the switch and you like, I'm switching. Make sure you address with your new doctor, hey, I was with Dr. So-and-so. These are the reasons why I left. So your doctor, the new one, could be on like, oh, all right. One, this person must listen to Dr. Pierre because they got their stuff together. Two, this person is able to communicate their needs because the responsibility of fulfilling those needs are on the physician, even though they'll try to tell you it's not. Because of responsibility of fulfilling those needs are on the physician, now the physician knows they got to straighten up a little bit. They got to make sure their office manager and their office assistants and everyone is doing what they need to do because they got a patient in front of them that knows what they're talking about and knows what they need to get the best endpoint of their health for them. And they're not going to tolerate any less because they'll just leave me. I don't want this patient to leave me. So having that conversation, getting that second opinion, maybe even third opinion, friends or family member, and then doing the research is so key. And again, some of your research may involve you calling and say, hey, these are my issues. I just want to know, can your doctor handle this? Like, is there any problems, any issues? How can I get in touch with the doctor after hours or even during hours? Like, what are some of the things that, was a hurdle in my last practice that I don't want to be a hurdle in my new practice that I'm joining? Like, these are questions you gotta ask when you're in this research phase of changing and switching out the doctor, right? Because I wish I could say it's this easy, just firing a doctor and you're good to go. But again, I do not want you to be out here firing your doctors, even though they may be bad. I don't want you out here firing your doctors and running into a doctor who may be just as worse because you didn't do the research. So we got to do the research when we're taking the steps on deciding, hey, you know what? This doc ain't for me. I'm going elsewhere. Now we want to make the transition a smooth transition. Like, I've done the research. I've gotten the word of mouth. I've gotten my, my recommendations out there. And you know what? I'm choosing Dr. So-and-so, whoever Dr. So-and-so is. What do I need to do first when I'm going into the new practice? First things first, you need to make sure you get your medical records from the old office. You need to make sure that all the stuff that they did is usually will be electronic, because a lot of times these offices will try to charge you for medical records. What you need to do is when you go to your new office, you need to tell your new office to request those medical records, because it's free when a doctor's office is requesting medical records, but they charge you, the patient, for printing out a piece of paper. Charge you like $1 a page or something like crazy amount. So always make sure that you're requesting your medical records. And I would do this before your new appointment. So before the new appointment, say, hey, this is the office that I just came from. Can you request my medical records for me? They want to charge me an arm and a leg. I'm not trying to pay an arm and a leg for a copy of my own records, especially if it's not on like electronic system, whatnot. I want a copy of my records. Please request them for me. So that by the time you walk into your first appointment, your new doctor already has an idea. This is what we're working with. This is what I need to do to get together. And like you almost have to plan your first visit out like to the T. Like, when I go to see this doctor, they're going to have my old medical records. I'm going to talk to them about what my issues were with my past office, especially because typically your first visit with your new doctor will likely be one of the longer ones, because we would break out for new visits. We'd give it like a 30 to 45 minute window, because we just understood that there was going to be a lot of catching up to do, and I couldn't just do it in like 15 minutes. So it's always going to be a longer appointment for you, especially for the new visit. So we're going to take advantage of that time. We're going to make sure our communication is there. Plan that first visit out. Plan to have an extended visit from a time duration standpoint, and make sure when you talk to your office, that new office, say, hey, I'm doing a new patient visit. I just want to clarify that this is going to be at least 30 minutes, like 45 minutes, something like that. I don't think 45 minutes seems like a long time, but at least 30. Make sure that if it's not, say, hey, can you book me for a 30-minute? I don't know if you guys realize that, but you can actually tell your doctors to book you for a longer time frame, especially if you think you need it. If you think you need to, say, hey, yeah, can you book me for a new appointment? I'm going to need a longer duration. Can you make this a 20, 30-minute one? Because I have a lot to talk about. So one, your doctor recognizes, oh, this is going to be a longer appointment. Let me let you know, we get paid more for longer appointments. So like, don't feel like if you ask for a longer appointment, it's going to really, really hurt us. No, we bill differently for appointments based on duration. Don't feel like you're wasting your doctor's time or they're losing money because they have to have a longer appointment with you. I think it's so key to plan for an appointment, have your records ready, get that communication going. When we talk about communication, communicate clearly, hey, these are my expectations. I listened to Dr. Barry. He said, I need to walk up here with my expectations of what I want as a new patient of yours, what I'm expecting within this doctor-patient relationship. It has to be clear. And the sooner you do it, that's why I said, like, people who have poor communication in the beginning will likely have poor communication in the end. You got to start on the right foot early so people understand, especially the physicians understand, the offices understand, this is the type of patient I'm dealing with. This is the type of patient I'm going to work with. This is how we're going to maximize this relationship, because no one doesn't want to maximize, right? Like, we're talking about firing someone. Again, because it's a matter of life or death, like, it has to happen, because if you don't, again, inadequate care, poor communication, poor respect, these are things that we got to nip in the bud, and you got to nip in the bud early. So it's so key when we're making that transition to make it a smooth transition, so you start off on the right foot and have a prosperous doctor-patient relationship. We talk about doctor-patient relationship a lot on here, and it's because I know how important it is when you don't have a good one. It's one thing to have a doctor-patient relationship and recognize, like, oh, I got a doctor-patient relationship. But when you have a good one, you recognize what the bad ones look like. You recognize, like, like, that is not a doctor that I could be messing with. This doctor is not for me. And one thing that I pride myself on is being able to adapt to so many different patient styles that it always seems like I'm one of the patient's favorite doctors. I ain't tooting my own horn. You just ask them. Don't ask me. Ask them. Google reviews say it as well too. So that, I think, is so key when we're trying to make that transition a smooth one going to a new doctor. So in conclusion, remember, understanding that knowing when to fire your doctor can be very challenging. How to fire your doctor can be very challenging. But at the end of the day, it's a life or death matter if you do not make the decision that's in the best interest of your health. Remember, empower yourself for better health. If you don't empower yourselves to be able to make these decisions, you allow yourself to stay in a relationship that will be detrimental to you and you only, right? A bad doctor relationship always hurts the patient. Very rarely does it hurt the doctor because the doctor just goes on to the next patient. A bad doctor-patient relationship always hurts the patient. So you have to know when to fire that doctor, when to recognize that the communication, the respect, the trust level, the inaccessibility is just too much for you to handle. And more importantly, when you're not getting the adequate level of care to move forward. Like, you gotta do that. If we don't get much from this episode, just understand and recognize what are some of the warning signs that may be telling you it's time to look for someone else. I'm yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre. See you next week.